there's proof out there that our mind heals us. So our thoughts literally boost our dopamine levels and activate healing responses. All of that said, that exchange of words and that exchange of energy between two people, or even that change for yourself. So, say you're meditating. That's why people are so into meditation, is because you're changing your perspective from down in the dumps and not even recognizing like who you are and where you are at that moment to being unstoppable. Same person, different mirror, different perspective.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We're your hosts, Susan Robbins, certified epigenetic human performance coach,
and Kate King, licensed psychotherapist, board-certified art therapist, and award-winning author. Together, we bring two perspectives, two styles, and one shared passion for epigenetics.
On this podcast, we delve into topics such as environment, nutrition, fitness, mindset, social dynamics, and trauma as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone.
We recognize that everyone's needs are unique. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions for your mind, body, and heart. The true magic lies within you.
So if you're ready to create a radiant life through epigenetics and reclaim your authentic self, then buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We are your co-hosts. I'm Susan Robbins, and I'm here with the lovely
Kate King. And today I am introducing you to someone who I know really well, and I'm really excited for the rest of you to get to know. Her name is Lee Hutchinson. She's a wife, mother of teenage boy-girl twins, and a business owner in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Lee is a practitioner of healing touch and Reiki, as well as a certified specialist in energy medicine and a certified sound healer. Lee is also a massage therapist with 20 years of experience in spas, chiropractic, and healthcare settings. She entered the field of energy medicine in 2016 as she worked through her own health issues and honestly attests to it saving her life. Lee is passionate about educating on the impact stress and repressed trauma have on our health. She offers energy healing therapies to work with your inner child and guidance and techniques to help you achieve your health and wellness goals. Lee's quote is, "It's time to go from surviving to thriving." So we're so excited to have you here with us, Lee. Thank you for being
Thank you
here.
both for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah,
Welcome.
welcome. So for people who might just be initially listening in and they're like, oh, energy work, interesting, but also maybe a little out there. Like how can you speak to our audience about how energy work is a real science and really grounded in not just practice but also theory, and like maybe just talk to the people like that who could be a little skeptical right at the
Yeah,
front.
there's many studies within quantum physics that have the perspective that the human body does have a subtle energy field, but we probably have exchanges of energy with people and not even realize it almost every day. When you give someone a hug, when you smile, when you give someone kind words, all of those change the way our energy looks and feels in our body. And I think that, like, our beliefs, even you said something about it being like a little woo or a little out there. Some people say, oh, it's placebo effect, right? But the placebo effect is real. There's proof out there that our mind heals us. So our thoughts literally boost our dopamine levels and activate healing responses. All of that said, that exchange of words and that exchange of energy between two people, or even that change for yourself. So say you're meditating. That's why people are so into meditation, is because you're changing your perspective from down in the dumps and not even recognizing like who you are and where you are at that moment to being unstoppable. Same person, different mirror, different perspective. So I feel like that's how energy really works. And so as a practitioner, I'm the one that's trying to coach you or help you have that awareness that that can change. I do read where energy is maybe not moving well in the body. So I try and help, just like with acupuncture, you're placing needles in certain areas to help open up the flow of energy. We just do that with hand placements. But I'm also trying to help you understand if this is going on with you, if these things are happening in your life, this is how it's affecting you energetically. And most of the time, it's very eye-opening and people can make that connection that, "Oh, I didn't really realize how much this was bothering me or how much it was affecting me. Maybe I need to look at that."
I have a
Um,
question.
yeah.
Do you find that more people are aware of this, or they're looking to become more aware?
So I have clients that enter in at all different levels and I try and meet them where they're at. So there's
Mhm.
people that come in that are definitely not aware. They think they're handling stress pretty well, that kind of situation. And then we look at what's going on. I do an assessment and then I talk to them about that and tell them what kind of treatment we're going to do. And then they're like, "Whoa, like you notice that and that affects that and this is what's happening in my life." We do a little bit of an intake, but I don't go into a deep dive of your whole life between the day you were born and now, right? So, sometimes that brings things up for people. Other people come in with more awareness. They've done more work. They know that something doesn't feel right or is not sitting right, but they don't know exactly how to help themselves
Mhm.
move out of it or shift out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned in the bio that I read in the beginning that you got into this work because you were healing your own body. I
Yeah,
imagine probably because maybe just, modern medicine itself wasn't working, wasn't doing the holistic picture of what you needed. Are you comfortable just telling us a little bit about what that was and how the energy work healed you?
sure, sure. So I think I was one of those people that thought I was handling all sorts of things in my life really well. But I did come across not being able to conceive was really where it started for me. And so I went through the whole in vitro journey. There was a lot of drugs, a lot of emotions, a lot of mental disparaging of myself, like cutting myself down, not good enough, why can't I conceive, that kind of thing. So when I finally did have kids, it wasn't for a couple years later that suddenly my body just was like, yeah, so I give up all of these things that have been happening all your life, but really in the last couple years especially that has just weighed me down and congested my system, really. So I got really sick. No one could diagnose what was happening. Digestive problems, low energy. And so I took matters into my own hands because I was getting test after test that was coming back negative, which in a way is good and takes some of that off your shoulders. Okay, it's not cancer. Okay, it's not this disease.
Mhm.
Okay. But at the same time, you're not coming up with any good reason why it's happening. A friend introduced me to someone that she had been working with that did energy healing. And she said she's really easy to talk to and she might help you figure out where some of this is stemming from. And so I between that and like taking charge of my own food intake and non anti-inflammatory foods, that kind of thing, eating cleaner, supplements, just did a little of my own research on that stuff. And so between those two things, I started progressively feeling better within a few weeks. Now, I had a long journey to get really back to where I wanted to be, but it was a great start, and I hadn't had any relief with traditional medicine up to that point.
Mhm. So if there was any part of you that was skeptical, it was pretty easy to make yourself a believer when you
Yeah,
get to that kind of rock bottom place and you're like, "Screw it, I've tried everything else. I guess I'll try this energy healing thing." And then you
right.
actually dip into it and it works. Maybe were you more surprised than anyone that it worked?
Yes, yes, I was skeptical, but I was also, like you said, at the point where I was like, "I'm open." And I think I've always been that kind of person, like, I might be skeptical, but I'm also like, I'm willing to try. And I also had family members that were skeptical, but saw things shifting and changing for me. And so that was all really, really eye-opening for me. And I think my very first class that I took, I was like, this is exactly where I need to be and when I need to be there. That was a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you explain the differences for the people that might not be aware? I know what Reiki is. I did the level 2 Reiki.
Mhm.
I've only used it. I used it on one of my friends who was in the hospital after a cancer surgery, and then only my cats or a couple dogs.
I'm sure they're super excited about that. They love it.
They loved it. They
Mhm.
loved it. I would say, "Rupert, do you want some Reiki?" And he'd lay back and be like, "And do it." It was
Mhm.
just and he'd be super chill. My little terrorist that just popped up, I can't do it on him. I had to have it done by a pet Reiki specialist twice to calm him down. But so I totally know what that is. But we may have some listeners that don't know what Reiki is, don't know what sound healing therapy is. So if you could explain some of these modalities that you do, what the
Sure.
differences are, how you would decide, okay, I'm doing an intake on this person and I'm thinking that Reiki might be great for them or the sound for them or the combination. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
first of all, I just wanna explain that there is an energy system, and it's like a step down system. So we have a much higher vibrational frequency of where we're bringing energy in from the universe and the earth's energy, which steps down into like our chakra system next. We generally have chakras in all of the areas where we have joint interventions, but then we have those 7 major chakras, which I think many people are somewhat familiar with or have heard the word chakra or energy center. Still a very high vibrational frequency. It's not able to be seen with any technology that we have up to this point. And then you step down into meridians. That's what most acupuncturists and like acupressurists work with because it's that system of energy that's closest to our body and also runs through our body and our organs, muscles, that kind of thing. And then we have our energy field or our aura. So we have these different components, right? Reiki is more of the mind that you're just sending energy and you're allowing energy to do what it will. Okay. Energy medicine is more of the mind, or an energy therapy practitioner is more of the mind that you can somewhat influence the changes in the energy. And again, we're not changing a person's energy, but we're saying, this is where I see energy congestion. So I'm going to do a technique that helps open up the energy flow there. So very similar to an acupuncturist who says, "This is what I see. This is where I'm going to put needles." Whereas Reiki, it's like I'm receiving universal energy, I'm sending universal and Reiki energy, and I'm letting happen what will happen. So it's very much open ended. And then sound therapy is much more tangible because 'cause you're using sound vibration. Most often, you're using metal bowls or crystal bowls. And just like with music in general, it can change vibrational frequencies of of what's going on with us and around us. So sometimes I actually use the bowls on people and it works similarly to acupressure or acupuncture, can open up channels of flow of energy. And sometimes just the sound is what helps change our perspective or change our mood, change our belief on how we can heal ourselves. And yeah, I use that in different ways. When I do a one-on-one session, I quite often will use the bowls on and off the body. Does that
I never
actually
heard them
good
on the
idea.
body.
Huh?
I never heard of them being used on the body. I've seen them and I've listened up. I love sounds therapy, binaural
Yeah,
beats, frequencies. And there's a gal I really like, Irene, and I cannot pronounce her last name, but she's on YouTube and she has a bunch of the bowls.
yeah.
And and from what I've heard, she sits there for the whole like 11 hours. People say she's actually there for the whole 11 hours
Wow.
doing these bowls. I'm sleeping through it,
R
but yeah, you can feel it.
You can.
You're laying there and all of a sudden you just start to feel this like wave come over you that's super relaxing.
Yes.
You feel the heart rate start to come down. So I
Yeah.
think there's really something to be said for the different types of the sound healing, but I
Yeah.
never heard of the bowls being actually put on somebody. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, so not so much the crystal bowls, they don't offer as much of a vibration feeling. The metal bowls are generally the only bowls that you place on the body.
And is that with the music go like, with are you doing something?
Usually I'm just gonging it, I'm placing it in a certain area and hitting the bowl, and the vibration can be felt through the body. Like you were saying, they call it a sound bath because the sound, even if you're just listening, it washes over you. You can feel the vibration come over you, even if the actual bowl isn't on you. But then when you also place a bowl on you, you're getting that auditory input as well as that sensory input from the bowl being on you and that vibration moving through your body. So it's very cool. It's very profound, I think. But that's how I would explain the differences, and I use the bowls interchangeably with the energy techniques, so placing hands in certain areas of the body as well. I kind of use that all together. I don't generally separate them unless someone specifically wants me to.
Mhm. I have another question, but I didn't want to take over because I want to make sure Kate Kate pops in.
No, go ahead. I was just thinking that I have actually been in a session with Lee where she places the bowl on my body and also around my body, and so I can speak to how that feels pretty different actually, having just the sound versus the sound and the physical vibration that those massage guns that are vibrational, and so
Yeah.
put them on a muscle, but this oftentimes Lee has put mine on, like, my solar plexus area, and when she gongs it, it starts with an intense vibration, and I feel it through my entire body, but then oftentimes Lee will let it go until the sound is complete, and so the vibration will change as we just allow
Right.
it to do its thing. So I can say from personal experience that that's a pretty wild experience. I really like
It
it.
sounds like it.
Yeah, it feels every time I go and I do this work with Lee, I come away being like, wow, I don't know what happened just there, but something happened. I feel different. And then
Yeah.
oftentimes I need to go to sleep that night and wake up the next day. And the next day, it feels like things have really integrated.
Yeah, and sometimes that's also the best time to be able to process.
Mhm.
So lots of times things will come to you, like maybe a thought about the session or a realization also that is in addition to what we talked about or we shared in the session. I think that shift, I think it takes a few hours, in my opinion, to for the shift to fully happen. Some people say it even continues for days.
Mhm.
Well,
My friend that does the body code, it mine usually there is about 4 days is the typical. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're just like, wow, some, something has definitely shifted. And that's not something you can make up. Like when you really
no.
feel when you go in there that I need to get out of this energy, there's something that just doesn't feel off or that feels off. And there is a very physical and emotional change that you
Yeah.
feel. One question, bef I wrote it down because I was like, "Oh, now I forgot what it was when I said I had a question." But some people are super funny about being touched.
Mhm.
I would like you to let them know because Reiki, you don't have to put hands on, like, you
Yeah,
can
you
actually
don't.
around them, so this might make some people feel a little bit more comfortable in
Mhm.
working with you, knowing they need this, but and you said you do remote sessions as well, so
Yep.
talk a bit about being in person, if there's someone that just doesn't feel comfortable with being touched, and then also how it works with a remote type of session.
Yeah. So some people, if someone comes in and says they don't wanna be touched, we're not touching. We can do any work that we need to do off the body, and that just falls into the energy of quantum physics, essentially. The the exchange of energy, it can't be destroyed or created, but you can move and change the flow of energy and stuff like that just with intention, so thoughts. And when you're sharing that exchange of care, love, intention with someone, is I'll just speak to what you said before, like there's no denying that you can feel the difference and the change, and really isn't that what it's all about?
Mhm.
Is how we are feeling, what our perspective is of how we're doing. And yeah, so when you come in and you do a session, if there is a concern of being touched, we very easily remedy that and we don't touch the client. And I've had only one client ever that didn't want me to touch, and then about 6 to 7 sessions in, she asked if I could place a hand in a certain spot. So, she allowed touch, but I could only touch and still progress being made. Also, certain kinds of touch, don't touch and move, like, they didn't wanna be, like, almost rubbed, and that can be for a whole host of reasons. It can be trauma, could be sensory stuff, but yeah, and then, like you said, distance sessions are an option also. So you can be anywhere in the world, literally. But maybe for some people too that are a little bit more introverted or maybe a little bit more nervous to talk to people, be in the same room with someone for whatever reason, that works really well. I always think that maybe a session in person is just a little bit better because I personally like being with people. But there's people out there that don't like being with people. And so
That's right.
distance sessions can really work for them.
Yeah, and
Mm.
it's no less effective.
No,
That's where I was going with whether you're being touched or not, whether you're going through a Zoom call, a phone, there is no, "Oh, I'm gonna have less impact from it because
correct.
I'm not in that same room."
In fact, when I first started receiving energy sessions, the lady that I received from only did distance sessions. And I would lay there on my bed and just be quiet and still while she worked. And it was interesting after about a handful of sessions, I was like, I can almost tell you where she is working. Like you can almost sense it. We all have that ability to intuitively tap in to our bodies and just really understand our bodies and allow that intuition to lead us to a healthier perspective, a healthier life, a better decision making process than using just complete logic. I'm not saying don't ever use logic, right? But I do think that there are a lot of instances where if we just really ask ourselves a question and then take the first answer that comes without hesitation, it's almost always the right way to go.
Yeah.
Agree.
Something that I find really interesting intellectually, just from working with you, is that there's so much philosophically behind what you do. Like, we know there's the 7 energy centers that anyone who's ever taken a yoga class can talk
Yeah,
about the chakras, but you work with 7 layers of each of those 7 centers. And some of them are physical, some of them are emotional, some of them are more esoteric, spiritual. You
yep,
also talk a lot about, like, the field. Sometimes I've gone in and you're like, "Whoa, your field is 10 feet extended on the left and contracted
right,
on the right," like,
right.
lopsided. So, you've also worked with my hara, which is, from my understanding, like, my connection to this life and this purpose. And I remember there was a time where my hara was split and you were like, I'm not gonna touch that. I'm gonna let it do what it's doing. So I don't know if there's anything there with any of these little specifics that you think people might not already know that might be helpful for them as they think about their own energy and kind of integrate their energy in with the physical body and the psychological, emotional aspects, the mental aspects, like bringing another level of understanding of some of those dimensions?
Yeah. So the hara is probably the least talked about and the least understood. If you're ever having an issue and it keeps reoccurring, or you think you're working through it and then it's not good again, more than likely it's because your hara is misaligned. And your hara is when where we move. This is what I was talking about how we're receiving energy from the universe and from the earth, but it's where we move from the collective to the I am. So you go from being a big collective energy to a little more of a personal space and an individual, right? But that energy is coming in through the top of your head. You're also receiving energy in through the root chakra from the earth. And it's like those energies moving in together and mixing together, and it creates a line. You have a couple different points on that line too, which I won't go into detail about because it's very in depth and like it's a higher level of understanding. But essentially that's so if you're having a problem where like a health problem that keeps reoccurring or you can't keep your perspective of staying positive. You think you're going in the right direction and then you are drawn right back to that depression or whatever. or you can't seem to heal from a physical problem. A lot of times that can be connected to the hara being misaligned. And I do work with the hara, but I also use discernment. So like in the case when you were just talking about I was probably getting the message at that point in time that I wasn't to do the work that needed to be done that day. I know we've worked on your I know we worked on that before, but in that particular moment, we probably didn't do the work just because that wasn't what I was called to do that day. Okay, so the 7 layers you were talking about, each chakra kind of emits a layer into your aura. So the 7 chakras also are part of your aura. Does that make sense? They create the layers of your aura. So of course the root chakra is the one that's closest to the physical body. And then from there, so we go more physical, and then we're mental, emotional, and then more spiritual is the upper chakras, and that's the outermost layer of your aura. So I can when I'm doing an assessment, yes, I can see which chakras maybe aren't moving or flowing the way that we would like them to, but it also usually coordinates with a certain thought process or belief or emotion that's happening with you. So I'm trying to think of an example. So, like, you might be dealing with some control issues or feeling like you can't change a situation that's out of your hands. A lot of times that'll fall at the solar plexus chakra, which is your third layer. So, we might also notice something in your aura that could be cleared, not just the chakra being something that needs to be worked on. Does that answer your question? Okay. Do you have anything else I can add to that?
I think so from an epigenetic perspective of
Yeah.
understanding how lifestyle, behaviors, the things we do, the things we think can change our genetic expression and make
Right.
us more vulnerable or less vulnerable to disease. Is that kind of where it comes in for the chakras? Like, if there's a vulnerability on a level of the chakra that's the more physical root chakra level, say someone's coming in with severe digestive issues and they also potentially have control issues or emotional layers that are
Yeah.
on top of the physical, the way that you would change the epigenetic expression is by helping them to balance and clear things on that energetic level, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Can you speak to that a little bit just for people who might be like,
Yeah.
"What? How energy changes your expression of your genes? Like, why?"
Just real quick, because I want to tie into what Kate said too, because this might help you with the explanation, is stress. Everything you just described, Kate, is all stress. And we know that stress will dial up the crappy genes that everybody's got some of, and it will downregulate the good ones that
Right.
people have.
Right.
And so it's just like everything that you guys have been talking about. It's just like stress, 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 whether it's
Right.
physiological, mental, any of that. Social for people now, super stressful. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
And when someone says, "Oh, I've got this baggage," or "I'm carrying this heavy load," I don't that they don't use that analogy for no reason, right? Like, things pile on top, on top, on top. So, even when you're feeling a certain thing occurring, that thing may not be what is actually at the root of the problem, which is why we call this such a holistic practice, is because we may need to go back to something that happened at age 3 in order to work our way towards getting rid of this chronic health problem, right? At age 3, if this trauma happened and you had the amount of stress maybe someone at 21 has at age 3 because you've gone through all these different things, that may have turned on or congested your system. And when energy isn't flowing well, things just don't function the way they're supposed to. And you're going to change the expression of the genes. So it can switch something on, switch something off. But the cool part is, and I think you would agree with this, is that I think that you can change that. It's like a
Absolutely.
switch that can be turned on and off. So there's a reason why people can have a disease and then all of a sudden not have a disease anymore. They can
Yeah.
heal from these things. And so I think the hardest thing to understand is the thing that's happening presently may not be changed by us working right at that level and that thing in this moment, right? Yes, I can do a treatment that might help ease that, but also we might not be getting rid of it because permanently because it's not the root problem.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to go back to thinking about the actual question that Kate asked me, but I think that I'm addressing what you were asking. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's just, like, really mind-blowing for people that we're getting into the knowledge and the understanding that our thoughts affect our physical body. If you're extremely stressed out, if you're thinking negatively all the time, you can start to feel, like, a sense of lethargic body or a bellyache or a
yeah.
headache. I think most people accept that as reality, but
Mhm.
bringing in an energetic component to it too, it makes so much sense when you remember that we are not flat beings. We have
Right.
all these dimensions to us
Yes. And
and
layers. Yep.
layers, yeah, and just because you can't see things doesn't mean they don't exist, and
Right.
if you're sensitive, you can learn how to feel them and
Right.
experience their existence on a level that helps to reinforce the way that they really are happening in the undercurrent of your experience all the time energetically, and
Right.
I think one of the best experiences that so many people might relate to is when you walk into a room, you can sense the energy of that room. Is this a group of
Mhm.
people who are having a good time? Or is this a
Right.
stressed out place? Is this
Right.
where you
Is
need
this
to, like
awkward? Is it yeah. Am
Mhm.
I
Right.
safe? All
Yeah.
those things. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't really see what's going on there, but undoubtedly you can feel it inside of
Yeah.
your body, and then you respond. So maybe you become awkward, or maybe you bring out your extrovert, or maybe you tuck in your authentic self, like, however you respond, and it might even be unconsciously. I think we
Mhm.
do that also with disease and with mental health. I
Yeah.
know you've helped me and other people work through emotional experiences and just difficult life transitions, probably yourself as well with the infertility that you experienced, like having all of these components and really addressing it on this more subtle level kind of brings the entire piece of
Right.
every piece of the puzzle together.
Absolutely, and it's not just straightforward. It's not just, "Hey, I can't conceive, but that's it." Like, we're not that simple, right? All of a
Complex.
sudden, it comes in. When I was this age, someone told me XYZ about myself, and now it's coming true. Like, it's coming to fruition. Now I see that I'm unworthy. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So, we're not simple beings, and we don't think linearly, and we add in all sorts of stories and emotions and complexity to certain situations, and then we have to realize we have to unpack that. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, this is the problem, and that's that," because that's very surface level. That's not the actual so, having infertility wasn't the lone problem, right? I had all this stuff that came way before that, that kind of brought that reality in for me, but it was all this stuff that happened earlier. Had I had addressed some of those things earlier, could I possibly have conceived at that point? I don't know. Never know that point, right? At this point. But I do think that that can, like you said, it can change things and it can turn things on and off and heal us in ways that we probably we may never understand. But I
We have
was
to be
always
okay
taught
with that.
huh?
I think it's
Yeah,
important to allow ourselves to understand that some things you just may not understand, and our ego mind wants to understand and grasp at
it
everything.
does.
But part of this work, of this more subtle aspect, is surrender and trust and believing that the headspace doesn't have to be the place where things make sense, but the body can be where it integrates on all these levels, even if
Yeah.
the head doesn't understand why.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think you and I talked about that a few times in sessions where it's like something happened at this age to make you feel blah, blah, blah. And then we want to go, what was that? Like, I got to know what that was. And we don't need to know what it was. You just need to be able to understand that it's there. And maybe you're ready to release the energy imprint around that, or maybe you're not yet. And like you said, you have to let go of that ego part of it and needing to know what the cause is and just understand that it's there it's changing or affecting the way that you are expressing as a being, and how can we move forward from it? And I was always taught that things affect us from the outside in. So basically, we disease from the outside in. So things start to affect us at a level that we don't really connect to. So for example, say you saw something negative happen when you went to a certain place, right? You saw an accident or and where you were somewhat disconnected from it, but it was like, "Oh, this happened when I went here, okay?" So then the next time you go to that place, you're like, "Hmm, I don't really like that place." So you form a perspective of that place because something happened there that was negative. Then the third time you go there, you're like, "I don't know, I'm feeling, like, emotional about it. Maybe I can work my way out of it." So you start to be not only become affected at the mental level, but the emotional level. So it was like spiritual or emotional, mental, whatever. And then maybe the fourth time, you're nauseous. You're physically anxious and shaking, or and you don't understand why it's affecting you though. It's because things affect us in layers. And if we don't address that, like by talking about it, or and in many cases, it's like, "Hey," you share with your friend, "Oh, I saw this accident when I went to this place, and this is how it made me feel, and I don't really know what to do with that or how to make myself feel better." But many times we're just like, "Oh, I saw that happen, and, oh, it is what it is. It's not really my life, so I'm just gonna move on." But we don't realize that that kinda adds
Mhm.
to changing or adding baggage to us, essentially.
Mhm.
Changing possibly our energetic expression slowly over time.
It is a journey.
Mhm.
All of it is, right? Kate just doesn't have one session with somebody to work with them. You don't have one session to work with someone.
Correct.
I don't test one DNA snip. Right?
Right.
There's so many because everything we do, the human is such a complex system. There's so many aspects to it that everything we're doing to get to these levels, increase the vibration, dial up or upregulate the DNA that we want to, everything we want to express. It takes time, but I also think it can be, and I don't know if Kate you felt this way with the sessions because we're so stressed out. People are so stressed. Hey, I've been
Yeah,
recently,
same.
and right,
Well, I gotta keep working, gotta keep doing the things.
doing them. But when you're on like a Reiki table, for me, it's almost a meditative state. Or if
Mhm.
I fall asleep,
Absolutely.
I am
Yeah.
so out. And you think, look at that. Your body is finally saying, "Oh, I can let go. I don't have to be
Mhm.
in this sympathetic fight or flight mode that
Right.
I've been in." And so to go have one of these sessions or have that sound bath healing to allow the body to just release a bit,
Yeah.
you are working with things epigenetically there. And
Yeah.
that's what people don't realize. They just think, "Oh, I feel better. I'm relaxed." Yeah, you just helped out part the vagus nerve, right? Heart rate
Right.
variability.
Mhm.
You've brought all of these in to activate more of that parasympathetic system
Yeah.
that we never see with
Yeah.
the life with the
Yeah.
lifestyles that we lead. It's just more and more and more, harder, harder, harder. And so even if it's just 60 minutes on a table that allows you to release, address some things that you don't have to sit and just talk about. That's the beauty of Reiki is that the one woman I was using here, she said, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. And it takes pressure off, which I think allows people to relax into it a
Yeah.
bit more so than feeling like they might not be ready to see Kate yet because they don't want or don't know how to talk about something. And they're not ready to work with me yet because, yeah, I don't want to give up the chocolate yet. I don't want to give up the alcohol. It's making me more stressed. But I can go lay on this table and have the magic hands and again, Kate, I don't know if you feel this, but the one thing that always stuck out to me and why I ended up becoming certified with Reiki, anytime whenever she got to the end of the table, my feet would start to tingle like crazy. And then when she came up, my hands would start to tingle. And you need to get certified. You got some power there. And I was like, this is freaky. You're at my feet, aren't you? Because she wasn't touching me. I said, you're down
Right.
at my feet. And you literally feel that energy. And the one woman I did it on, this was several years ago when after she had colon surgery for cancer. And I just held the hands above her abdomen where the surgery was. And she opened up her eyes and she was so out of it with anesthesia. She didn't even remember that the next day. But she looked up at me and she was like, wow, I feel it pulling. She could feel it pulling. It was
Yeah.
really
Really cool.
and you're I've been hearing of more hospitals welcoming Reiki practitioners
Mhm.
to come in and
Yeah.
help with patients with the
Yeah, they're generally pretty open to it.
oh,
There's not many employed by hospitals, but they're pretty open to having practitioners and come in. I think they like to know ahead of time, right?
yeah,
Don't just
yeah.
pop in and be like, "Hey, I'm here after a surgery and recovery. I'm gonna do some Reiki." I think they do like to know, kind of like as part of your surgical plan, but they're generally pretty open.
And do you work on animals too?
So, I have done an animal class. I work on my own animals. So far, I don't have any animal clients. I mostly work on people. So,
My
um
my cat I have 2 cats, and my cat veterinarian, when I took my little guy not long ago, I'd said that I had had Reiki done on him, and she said, "I let my Reiki go. I need to go back and go back through again," but she said, "I used to do it in my practice all the time." And she's cats only, cat specific.
Oh, that's
And she said the response of those animals, she said, "I don't know why I stopped. Thank you for bringing it back up," because she said it was just mind-blowing how they responded because they're
yeah,
just that energy, and they don't have the thinking that we do where we can go, "I
yeah,
don't that's stupid," and
yeah.
block it out. They just receive, and
They
so,
just
like,
receive.
they
Yep.
just receive,
And
and
they
they take
also can heal much easier and much quicker than us because of that.
exactly. Exactly. So I wonder, I don't know, I haven't been back in a while, so I don't know if she brought it back into her practice, but I just thought that was also pretty fascinating and just seeing the difference. 'Cause my guy was limping and it was out of the blue. So I lay and it was all day and I had company here. We were doing a cooking course that I was doing here. And so it was a couple of clients and then they left and he was still like severely limping. I said, this is weird. And I thought, "Okay, let me lay him down." I said, "Rupert, do you want some Reiki?" And he's just, "Yeah, whatever." He was super chill. And so I did it. I held over that, did all the Reiki, and he got up and he walked away with no limp.
Yeah.
Now, it's not an
The
animal that's gonna
takeaway is
go, I
be
took
the
this thing.
animal.
Be the animal. Let go, let flow. Let go, let flow. And
Yeah.
that's the problem, I think, with us as thinking humans is we want to control everything all the time. And that fear of just letting go what's gonna happen? Geez, what might happen if you actually let go? You might feel flow.
I wonder I know that we have to close here in a minute, and I will ask my last question, but I have a last question before the last question. Just throwing it sideways for you guys today. So, do you find that in our modern day, I feel like generationally and at different times in history, there are themes. And Susan and I recently did a podcast all about fear. We did another one that was all about love and self talk and positive energy towards the self. Are you noticing anything, Lee, in your practice or just in your sensitivity to the world? Are there energetic themes that a lot of people are coming in with and complaining about and struggling with right now that seem like they're really specific to this time?
Yeah, I'd say people are struggling with their spiritual connection is what I'm seeing a lot right now, and but also at the same time being present and grounded because the mind is going in all these different directions thinking about, "What if this? What if that? What if this is happening there? This is happening there. How do I help these people? How do I" And so it's all about balance always, okay? You have to make sure that you are present and you are staying within as well as taking those moments to look outward. So if we do too much of any one thing, right? Anything in abundance is usually not good. Too much exercise, too much water, too much too much of anything. So create that balance. But I am seeing a lot of people struggling with without getting too into it or too political or anything. It's like struggling with their spirituality as opposed to what is being said about their religious views and stuff right now, and like that contrast of back and forth of this is what is said in the Bible, but this is the way I interpret all those different things that are happening in our government and our world and all of that. But probably the biggest number one thing is just being grounded within yourself, being present with yourself, working on yourself and your stuff so that you can be the best version of you, so that you can be kind to others, so that you can offer giving to others without depleting who you are. And so I don't know if that's necessarily a theme, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing those
It
very
is.
high chakras, and then so it's two different extremes. So your root chakra and your crown chakra.
And I have
Um,
one last thing before Kate asks her question. If people are interested in learning more about you or working with you, where can they find you?
yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I also have a website, and I usually post all my events on my website, and I also post that on my social media
Can you throw out a
pages as
social
well.
media handle? Because we'll have
Uh,
the website and everything else on our show notes.
yeah, so Holistic Bliss LLC is Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
Fabulous. All right,
Mm,
Kate,
Thank
you're
you.
up.
and Lee does
What do you
some
got?
really cool things on her social media where she actually does healing energy sessions in these reels
Super.
where all you have
Yeah.
to do is just literally watch, and she's moving her hand,
Watch and receive.
her face, and it's beautiful, like, when you're in the middle of your doom scroll, with an spring, and it's beautiful. So thank you for that. Okay, so we ask this question of all of our guests so that we can personalize this work to you and how you're consciously changing your epigenetics in your life. So, Lee, what are you doing presently in your everyday life to cultivate your own radiant life through epigenetics?
Yeah, so, at the physical level, I focus on clean eating, like 80 to 85% of the time. I'm eating real food, not stuff from the pantry, and I also try and stay physical, so at least 3 days a week, I'm trying to get out. I like being outside. I try and depending on the seasons, I get out there whenever I can at certain times of day just to walk or be outside because I feel like connecting with nature is something that we're missing out on a lot. It offers so much to our physical and our energetic being. I like to meditate. I would like to do a little more of that than I've been doing lately, but quiet time is the best time. So you were saying, Susan, like just even if it takes you coming here and paying for a session to be on the table and relax for 60 minutes and allow that for yourself, and you're not gonna do that at home, there's lots of other reasons why being with a practitioner is important, but allowing yourself that quiet time and that relaxation time does a whole host of things for your body and your
It
mind.
does.
You Google it and AI will tell you.
Sure.
Lowers blood pressure, helps regulate enzymes, hormone regulation, all sorts of good things. So meditation is something that I really like to do at least a couple times a week. I would like to do it more.
Now you're held accountable.
I know,
Just
right? That's why I'm saying it because now you guys are gonna check in on me. I used to journal a lot, but I don't love it, but I feel like there's an ebb and flow of that for me. And the other thing I sometimes will like to do is just like a positive affirmation for the day. Sometimes it's a quote from the Bible, sometimes it's just a quote in general. Anything uplifting, anything positive, anything that helps you reflect. And I don't know, it's just a great start to the day. So, I
great.
like to do that every morning.
Love it.
So those are
Love
my
it.
big things.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
thank
coming on
you.
here and sharing your knowledge and your energy with everybody here.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. Please share this. We can work with anybody, anywhere, and we all need an upgrade in our energy. And Kate and I, like we just said, that just going through this, it really is a missing piece to the puzzle that a lot of people have. If you're working with her, doing therapy things, if you're working with your lifestyle, this that little missing piece that just may give you that little extra edge there. So thank you all for joining us. Get out there, make it a great day, be your most authentic selves. Have a great
Thank
day. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, we'd love for you to share it, leave a review or comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Help us get this information out to everyone who could benefit, and we'll keep bringing you the content you crave.
You can also check out our podcast site at everydayepigenetics.co and sign up for our newsletter to stay updated on upcoming episodes. The link is in the show notes.
If you're interested in DNA or epigenetic coaching with Susan, or Radiant Life Coaching for deep inner work with Kate, our contact info is in the show notes below.
Now go and make it a great day and let your most authentic self shine.